Hey everyone, this is RWBY, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into part 2 of our fanfic discussion. What if Naruko was the one to rescue Amber in RWBY? If you've seen part 1, you already know things took an interesting turn, and in this part, the story gets even more intense. Quick disclaimer before we begin. This channel is purely for entertainment, fan theories, and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage shown. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, with that out of the way, let's get started. Amber woke alone. Ugh. My head. What even happened? There was no reply. No witty remark. No playful quip to meet her words. Her heart skipped when she realized she couldn't hear Naruko's voice. Strange as it might sound, she had grown used to the wandering shinobi residing in her thoughts. It was like having a spirited guardian always nearby. One who was outspoken and far from tactful, but still a companion she cherished. It reminded her she wasn't alone in this strange journey. Naruko was bound to her soul by forces greater than either of them, and though both had once been lost, they had been brought back. Amber simply felt more whole than Naruko seemed at the moment. For Naruko to be silent now didn't feel right. She was certainly up to something. Amber could sense it. Naruko? Her voice echoed in the quiet room. Anxiety welled inside her chest. With effort, Amber rose, tugged her navy shirt back into place, and stepped away from the bed. Her bare feet brushed softly against the carpet as she moved toward the dresser and mirror. The room she now called hers was plain and undecorated. There hadn't been time, and she and Naruko hadn't exactly agreed on what to add. Ozpin had only provided these quarters after a particularly chaotic evening spent with teams RWBY, JNPR, and CFVY. The memory made her smile despite herself. But there was no Naruko in the mirror. Pity. She half expected her friend to playfully spook her from there, as she'd done before. Instead, Amber's reflection greeted her with something else, a faint mark near her neck. She flushed at the thought. Oversized shirt hanging loosely from her frame, she studied her reflection, fingertips brushing the faint scars that remained from Cinder's ambush. Amber had learned to bear them with pride. She was a survivor. She had come back stronger. Something rattled against her window. Amber startled, glancing about nervously, only to scold herself moments later. Just the rain, she muttered. Still, her unease deepened at Naruko's absence. This isn't funny, Naruko. Where are you? Stop hiding. A muffled sound answered. Caw. Amber blinked. Once. Twice. Thrice. What? On the third flutter of her lashes, she spotted the source, a raven perched on the sill, its piercing blue eyes fixed on her through the glass. It looked pitiful in the rain, tapping its beak against the window. Concern overcame hesitation, and Amber hurried to unlatch the pane. The raven hopped inside. Crow? She yawned the name, relief softening her tension. The bird ruffled its feathers indignantly and let out another sharp caw. Not quite. Amber froze. That was Naruko's voice. It rang in her mind as clear as day. Her jaw fell open. You. How? Surprised? The bird preened, lifting a wing with remarkable smugness. Thought you might be. Amber could only gape. Since when could you do this? Since a few hours ago, Naruko replied casually, shaking raindrops from her feathers. While you were asleep, I tried reaching out with my soul. Saw this bird outside and felt sorry for it, so I touched its spirit. Then, poof. Here I am. She flared her wings like a little phoenix, clearly proud. Amber's astonishment quickly melted into delight. You're so? The raven tilted her head. You're so adorable. Wah, hey. Naruko squawked indignantly as Amber scooped her into her arms, cradling the little bird close. She flapped and fussed, but made no real effort to escape. Amber giggled, stroking her feathers. We'll have to find you a better form eventually. You'd make a fine scout like this, but fighting would be tricky. Naruko's eyes gleamed. I've got a few ideas. Though they're a little unusual. Prove me wrong, then, Amber teased. If you can get through my aura, we'll look for another body. What's the matter? She added with a sly grin. Chicken? Naruko bristled, feathers fluffing as she gave Amber a look sharp enough to cut. Say that again. Amber laughed and poked her beak gently. Aw, what's the little birdie going to do? The raven darted forward with a sudden burst of feathers and energy, launching herself at Amber's chest. Startled, Amber toppled back with a squeak as Naruko flapped onto her head, tugging at her hair with tiny talons. Amber's aura flared defensively, but in her panic she rolled right off the bed. Naruko fluttered back to perch triumphantly on the pillow, wings spread wide as though declaring victory. Amber pouted. That wasn't fair. Naruko's smug tone rang in her mind. Caw, caw, victory is mine. .0.0.0. The heavy door creaked open, echoing down the dim corridor. Amber shivered slightly but pressed forward as the mortician guided her in. Right this way, my lady. Naruko tittered softly in her bird form, clearly entertained. Amber resisted the urge to scold her. She wasn't fond of this place, cold metal tables, silent halls. It unsettled her. Remind me why we're doing this again? Amber whispered. Because you lost our bet, Naruko teased. And this is the fastest way to find me another body. Amber wrinkled her nose. I still don't like it. It's all right, Naruko reassured. We're not breaking any rules. Technically, that was true. Beacon had taken custody of certain remains for reasons Ozpin had yet to explain, though Amber suspected it was for proper rest and closure. Regardless, it gave them a discreet chance to search. The mortician, a thin man with dark hair and a thick mustache, gave a polite bow before excusing himself. I'll be in my office if you need anything. See? Naruko cawed softly. All clear. With a small flutter, Naruko's soul slipped free of the raven, leaving the bird peacefully asleep in Amber's arms. Amber blinked as Naruko's spirit shimmered before her, ethereal yet familiar, golden like sunlight. Finally. Naruko stretched, sounding relieved. You have no idea how cramped that bird was. Like squeezing into a tiny box. Amber smiled despite her unease. You're incredible, Naruko. But let's be quick. I don't want to linger here. Agreed, Naruko said brightly. Now, let's see what possibilities await us. Am I? Naruko tilted her head thoughtfully at the question. Strange. I don't feel any different. Then again, they say change frees the spirit. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe my outlook has shifted. Maybe I just want to enjoy myself while I can. She shrugged with a sly little smile as her bright blue eyes narrowed playfully. I could say the same about you. She waggled her eyebrows teasingly. You and Coco, huh? She sure knows how to make herself heard. I practically had to tune out just to get some peace. Amber, refusing to indulge her antics, snatched up a clipboard and tossed it at Naruko. The board sailed straight through her form without a sound, clattering harmlessly to the ground. Naruko touched her chin, grinning. Well, maybe this whole spirit thing has changed me a bit. I never would have joked like that before. She twirled about cheerfully. Look, if I let frustration get to me, I wouldn't really be me. I'd rather laugh than sulk. That's who I am. But you are upset, Amber pressed. Oh, I definitely am, Naruko admitted with a grin. But I'm saving my energy for that golden nuisance. Once I'm back in my proper body, I'll be ready to face him head on. Until then, I want to make the most of this strange new chapter. Who knows how long it'll last. Amber sighed inwardly. Naruko was always open, but it still felt like she kept a few secrets tucked away. Amber didn't much like the thought of confronting the god of light, yet deep down she knew it had to be done. Gods always meddled in mortal affairs, and though the god of darkness had helped them for now, there was no telling if he'd remain on their side forever. For the moment, Amber just wanted to finish this unpleasant task and move forward. Raid a morgue for vessels, she said. It'll be easy, she said. Lies, I say. Bingo. Naruko cheered, pointing at a form on the table. This one looks perfect. Amber leaned closer, cautious. So, did it work? A tense silence hung in the air. Then. I leave Ive, Naruko cried dramatically. Amber yelped, nearly stumbling back. At that instant, the pale figure on the table sat upright with a sudden gasp. Amber could feel Naruko's spirit straining the connection between them before it snapped back into balance. She clutched her chest, flustered. Don't frighten me like that. Oops. Can't promise I'm sorry, Naruko chuckled with Adam's borrowed voice, her grin mischievous. But hey, this could work. Young, strong, and... well, it'll do. She stretched her new limbs with exaggerated flair, brushing hair from her face. Maybe I should dye it. Then again. I always wanted to try being a redhead. What do you think? She struck a pose, flexing dramatically. Do I look stylish? Absolutely not, Amber giggled despite herself. You can't keep that one. Blake would be furious, or worse, she'd think Adam had come back somehow. Not if I surprise Weiss with a kiss, Naruko muttered under her breath. Amber flushed red. Stop that right now. Fine, fine, Naruko rolled her borrowed eye. You're no fun. The vessel collapsed as she hopped into another nearby form. This time Emerald's body rose to its feet. Oh, Naruko remarked in mild surprise, inspecting the figure. This one's not bad either. Amber stomped her foot. Naruko. Absolutely not. Pick something else immediately. But why I? This could be useful. Naruko whined playfully, before discarding Emerald's body with a sigh and returning to Adam's. The big guy mentioned something about splitting my soul. Not sure how I feel about that just yet. Amber folded her arms firmly. I am not helping you collect vessels. You're such a spoilsport. Naruko pouted. Before Amber could scold her again, a sudden noise erupted from outside the morgue. Both girls froze. The door burst open, and they were caught instantly. So much for a flawless plan. Neither had considered the consequences of sneaking into a place like this. They'd hoped Beacon's recovery efforts would keep others distracted. How wrong they were. I thought it peculiar you came down here without my consent. But what is this? Naruko, still in Adam's form, cringed. Oh. Headmaster Ozpin stood in the doorway, cane in hand, his eyes wide with alarm. Behind him, Glinda Goodwitch looked as though she had just seen something out of a nightmare. Ozpin blinked once. Then again. Adjusted his glasses. Finally, he pressed a weary hand to his temple. Well, he said at last, voice calm but firm. This is certainly not how I expected my morning to unfold. Care to explain yourself, Amber? Amber dared a nervous glance at Naruko, who waved cheekily with Adam's arm. No? Amber squeaked. I'm afraid that wasn't a request. Busted. The God of Light was never one to admit defeat. Anyone who claimed otherwise must have been gravely mistaken. As a divine being, he was the very image of serenity and order. He honored his promises, stood as a symbol of fairness, and prided himself on being just. He certainly was not the sort of spirit to pout when his sibling bested him in some cosmic contest. Nor did he act like an impatient child when others outmaneuvered him. And yet, when a certain blonde girl cleverly bypassed his designs, he found it surprisingly difficult to keep his composure. It did not bother him. It did not bother him at all. It absolutely did not bother him. It bothered him immensely. Troublesome, cycle-defying, mortal. The God of Light's luminous form trembled within the great expanse of the heavens. Radiance blazed from him in waves, his golden hands clenched at his sides as he restrained his growing frustration. The world of remnant sparkled beneath him, its fragile balance shifting once again in ways he had not anticipated. Mortals were unpredictable, their hearts prone to sudden change, and this unpredictability gnawed at him. His brother, the God of Darkness, had vanished from sight, content with his own recent triumphs and the strange cult now worshipping him. He would not intervene. Their pact still stood, though tested. That line had not yet been crossed. The God of Light drew a steady breath. So be it, then. If his brother would choose a mortal champion, then he too would find one. Someone worthy, faithful, unshaken by shadows, and devoted to the path of light. A soul who would not waver or turn against him. His divine gaze pierced the layers of time and space, searching every corner of existence. He saw past and present, glimpsed echoes of futures not yet written, and examined the hearts of countless mortals. Finally, his sight rested upon a figure who seemed ideal. A warrior of remarkable strength, spirited and determined, with gifts unlike any other. With a single thought, he extended his radiance to touch their spirit. Rise, child of light. You are chosen. In retrospect, perhaps his choice was not as wise as he believed. For though gods are powerful and eternal, wisdom does not always walk hand in hand with their judgment. Dash. Question mark somewhere, someone? Silver eyes fluttered open. I'm still here? Dash. Amber glanced toward the sky from Ozpin's tower. The day was clear, yet she thought she heard a distant rumble, almost like thunder. Perhaps her mind was playing tricks on her. She shook it off, trying not to dwell on it. Her thoughts wandered instead to the gift she longed to use again, the ability to soar freely like a bird in the open sky. Her reflections were suddenly interrupted. Would you please stop poking me already? Naruko's playful but frustrated voice rang out, snapping Amber back into the moment. Amber sighed. Yes, Naruko, I wonder why we're still at this. Ozpin had not reprimanded them for their earlier choices. Instead, he had simply looked at them with quiet disappointment, a look that felt heavier than any scolding. Amber had wanted to shrink away, wishing the floor would swallow her up. Naruko, however, reacted differently. Perhaps due to some lingering effect of divine meddling, she was now freer with her words. And oh, how she used them. Standing before Ozpin, with Crow and Glinda nearby, Naruko crossed her arms defiantly. For the last time, no. I'm not giving up this body. I've fought hard to keep it, and I'm not about to trade it away. Ozpin adjusted his glasses, calm as ever. Surely we can find you an alternative. Naruko raised an eyebrow. Alternative? I was given this chance, and I'm not throwing it away just because it's inconvenient for you. She gave the wall a firm tap with her palm, leaving a noticeable dent. See? This body is strong. I need that strength. Glinda's sharp gaze met hers. Be that as it may, Naruko, you're currently wearing the face of someone the world knows is dangerous. That complicates matters. Naruko smirked mischievously. And what if people start saying Amber can call back the lost? Would that be so strange? They're already calling her a goddess. Amber groaned and covered her face, her cheeks heating in embarrassment. Please, don't remind me. Ozpin's eye twitched ever so slightly. Naruko, you are making this far more complicated than it needs to be. Naruko shrugged, her grin widening. What can I say? Life is complicated. I've been through battles, dealt with a god's curse, and faced someone with powers beyond imagination. And yet, here I am, still standing. Forgive me if I don't just nod along quietly. Amber smirked a little, secretly enjoying the way the adults flinched at Naruko's words. Crow muttered, well, can't argue with that. Naruko leaned back, satisfied. Exactly. It is hardly our fault that we reclaimed those powers from that misguided foe and defended against the invasion, is it? The spirit's smile turned sharp as she moved forward, her presence echoing the energy of the being she currently inhabited. Who else could you possibly place the blame upon? Her hands pressed firmly against Ozpin's desk, the sound echoing through the office. I'm certain you examined Cinder and her allies very carefully before allowing them entry into Beacon. Glinda's riding crop tapped her palm with a sharp snap. You will address the headmaster with proper respect. If you're attempting to frighten me, don't bother, Naruko replied, unwavering. I've faced Tsunade before, and she didn't need a trinket like that to make her point. A playful smirk curved her lips as her single visible eye flickered with mischief. Glinda adjusted her glasses. I beg your pardon? Amber pressed a hand to her forehead, wishing she could end the exchange before it escalated. Crow chuckled. I've changed my mind, I like her spirit. Because I must be strong. Naruko raised a hand toward Goodwitch. I've had to fight for every step forward in this world. Do you realize how difficult it is to adapt in a place like this? A tiny crow in Amber's arms gave a sleepy caw, and Naruko's sharp expression softened. Well, the little fellow doesn't count. Ozpin blinked, composed himself, and spoke again. Nevertheless, that does not change the fact that Adam Taurus is no longer present. Not exactly. Amber pressed a finger lightly against Naruko's chest. In a sense, he lives as long as Naruko is. Borrowing his form. Listen closely, you'll hear his heart beating. She demonstrated for emphasis. Please don't describe it that way, the blonde murmured. You're making me sound like Orochimaru, and that's not an image I care for. Is it true? Ozpin leaned forward, curious. Naruko folded her arms. Touch me and I'll shout, she warned. Ozpin merely raised a brow. Glinda, if you would? With visible reluctance, Glinda checked the pulse of Adam's borrowed body. Her eyes widened as she felt the steady rhythm, and Naruko's smug little grin deepened. See? Told you. And what of his soul? Glinda asked carefully. There's no one else in here but me, Naruko explained honestly. The body still carries fragments of memory, skill, and habit. For example, I can wield a sword with surprising familiarity, even though I've hardly trained with one myself. She tilted her head. There are even bits of emotion lingering. This person cared deeply for Blake, though perhaps too much. That should be impossible, Glinda whispered, rattled. Naruko stepped closer. I can prove it. Hand me a sword, and let Amber test me. We will not arm you so easily, Glinda scoffed. Oh? Are you afraid of me? Insolent child. Overly strict teacher. Amber sighed, realizing Naruko was actually enjoying herself far too much. Ozpin cut in with a weary breath. Crow, the left drawer of my desk. There's an old longsword there. Bring it out. Crow retrieved the weapon, a silver-hilted blade in a green sheath. Ozpin offered it to Naruko with care. I trust you will handle this responsibly. Of course. Naruko drew the blade in one smooth motion. Amber, strike. Amber hesitated, but Naruko nodded confidently. Don't worry. This body is strong, trust me. Amber struck the sword with her fist. Energy rippled through the borrowed body, aura flaring bright as Naruko absorbed the impact, her stance straining but holding. She gritted her teeth, then redirected the force outward in a sweeping arc of crimson light. Ozpin calmly raised his arm, a jade shield of aura forming to meet the strike. Smoke filled the room before drifting away. When the haze cleared, the headmaster was smiling. Fascinating. You can indeed channel Adam's semblance. Glinda recoiled. Sir, you cannot be serious. Oh, but I am, Ozpin said with childlike wonder. This discovery could change everything. Crow frowned. I don't like it. Feels unnatural. Ozpin's gaze softened. Sometimes, Crow, we must carry difficult burdens so others may remain safe. Were it not for Naruko's intervention, Beacon itself might have fallen. Naruko quickly crossed her arms in an forget it. I'm not merging with anyone else. I won't place someone through that. Ozpin arched a brow. Even a willing volunteer? No one wishes for that, Naruko insisted. Crow raised a hand immediately. Not me. Ozpin tempted him with extra rations, but Naruko's glare silenced the matter at once. Amber placed a gentle hand on her partner's arm. Please. Just once, for me? With visible reluctance, Naruko released Adam's body and floated free in spectral form. The adults gasped at the sight. Crow eventually blinked, staring directly at her. She's real. I can see her. Ozpin's eyes gleamed. Indeed. This may be the beginning of something remarkable. And you? I will give you everything you need and more, he promised, stooping to reclaim his cane once more. Judging by that look, I'd say you saw her. At last, his gaze hardened back into that of the headmaster. Amber knew. You understand the challenge she represents. She must be guided. Look, I'm not denying that, but... Naruko's gaze wandered back toward Adam's motionless form. And you shall have it, Ozpin reassured her, answering her unspoken question. I only ask for 1 day to prepare it properly for you. Then we can leave? By all means, Ozpin said warmly. Take the rest of the day off. Amber didn't need to be told twice. Everything was happening so quickly, far too fast for her to keep up with. Muttering a quick farewell, she strode toward the elevator at a brisk pace. Naruko drifted after her, sparing one last glance at Ozpin. She pressed the button sharply, sending the doors sliding shut behind them. To Crow's credit, he held his tongue until the elevator doors closed. Oz, you can't be serious. This doesn't feel right. I've never been more serious about anything in my life, Crow. Ozpin cut down his protest immediately with a calm smile. This young woman is a gift. A hero. She could be anything we need her to be. A steady ally, someone to rely on. A light against Salem's shadow. Doesn't sound like she wants to be called a weapon, Crow muttered. Oh, that? A slip of the tongue, nothing more. Crow stole one final look at the elevator. Summer was called a weapon once too, Oz. Dash. .0.0.0. That went. Well? I'm not sure it did. Amber shook her head as she walked away from the tower, leaving Naruko to drift after her. You lost your body. Sorry. For now. Something in her smile told Amber she hadn't revealed all her secrets to Ozpin. I can always reclaim it later, when I want. The Fall Maiden cast one final glance back at the tower and shivered. Ozpin wants to use you. You realize that, right? Of course I do. A translucent blue gaze regarded her as Naruko folded her spectral arms behind her head. He can try all he wants. I'm done being a tool. I'm me. No one else. Amber softened. Good. You shouldn't let anyone control you. Naruko chuckled. You certainly don't. A spark of warmth touched Amber's cheeks and for a moment, just a moment, she forgot she couldn't hold Naruko's hand. She reached for her before she could stop herself, longing to thread her fingers with hers. Instead, her palm passed through. Naruko turned with a gentle smile, and fresh heat rose to Amber's cheeks. Sorry, Amber whispered. Naruko leaned into her, brushing gently against her thoughts like a warm breeze. Don't be. An awkward silence lingered before Amber spoke again. This was why she had left Beacon. Everything here was too controlled. She missed freedom, helping people on her own terms. Ozpin meant well, but his intensity frightened her. If he had Naruko's power at his fingertips. Maybe we should leave, she whispered. You want us to leave Beacon? Naruko tilted her head. Why? You're possessing people and objects, Amber said cautiously. That's not something others will easily accept. I don't care what they think. I know, Amber replied with a sad smile. Although, speaking of that body. No. Amber cut her off, flicking a finger at her. We are not using Adam's image to infiltrate the White Fang. Absolutely not. Why not? Naruko asked. I saw his memories. So many bases, so many secrets. Adam misled good people. If we showed the truth, maybe they would listen. Isn't that what heroes do? No. Naruko folded her arms defiantly. Blake would do it. Well, I'm not Blake, Amber replied firmly. And don't you forget it. Then what about Salem? I don't want to face Salem. Amber stopped walking and threw her arms wide. She's powerful. I don't even know if she can be stopped. Her words made Naruko pause. Amber felt uneasy. Naruko, she whispered, when you were inside Ozpin's thoughts. What did you see? A few things, Naruko admitted, looking away. Like what? If I tell you, you'll be upset. Amber narrowed her eyes, ready to press harder. Hey, look. A familiar voice called. Amber. Over here. Naruko quickly hid inside the Raven's body as Team RWBY approached. Amber wasn't sure whether to be grateful for the interruption or annoyed. But it was impossible to stay upset at Ruby Rose for long. The spry girl hurried over in a flurry of crimson petals. Who were you talking to? Oh, Amber stammered. Just my raven. Neat. Ruby darted forward to admire the bird. Naruko bristled in her arms. Nothing to see here. You have a pet bird? That's so cool. Yang grinned. We were just about to have lunch. Want to join us? She leaned closer, her lilac eyes brightening. Aw, look at the little birdie. Aren't you just precious? You being good for your mom? Naruko went curiously still. I'm not a baby. Oh. Hey. She blinked as Yang scratched under her chin. That actually feels nice. When Yang tried to pull away, Naruko tugged her hand back with her beak. Don't stop. Hey. Feisty. I like that. That, Blake frowned, is not a normal bird. Normal? Naruko flared her wings. I'll have you know I'm extraordinary. Hey, Ruby cried. Don't tease the poor thing. She's awesome. Can I hold her? No. Sure. Amber handed her over with a sly smile. Careful, though, she's shy. Naruko huffed. I'm putting birdseed in your shoes. Ruby, however, handled the raven with perfect care. She tucked Naruko close, gently stroking her feathers. Naruko cocked her head, surprised, before settling. I like this one, Naruko declared happily. Amber, can we keep her? Yang laughed. Rubes has always been good with animals. Just don't let her near Svi. Svi? Amber blinked. Our dog, Yang beamed. He likes to chase birds. And cats sometimes. Blake hissed. Naruko cawed indignantly. I changed my mind, Blake said. Can we keep her? Yes. Naruko cheered. No. Weiss interrupted sharply. Ruby, put that bird down at once. You don't know where it's been. Amber winced, glancing down at Naruko. The raven didn't ruffle her feathers or fuss. Instead, she went very still. Her bright eyes locked on Weiss with startling focus, enough to make the others shuffle back. Doomed, Naruko whispered softly for Amber's ears alone. Doomed is this Schnee. She shall face the whirlwind of my playful retribution. Her little body tensed, wings flicking in anticipation. Weiss blinked. Why is she looking at me like that? Ruby gasped as Naruko wriggled free of her arms. The raven darted forward like a feathered comet. Feather attack. Weiss shrieked as Naruko landed in her hair. Get her off me. She wailed, spinning wildly. Get her oof. Wow, that little one's energetic, Yang laughed as they entered the cafeteria. You really need to train her better, ouch. She nipped me. That serves you right, Blondie. You were siding with the dog. A true betrayal of blondes everywhere. Amber did not laugh. She certainly didn't giggle. Anyone who claimed otherwise was simply mistaken. Ignorance was bliss, and she would hold on to this secret forever. Naruko seemed perfectly happy soaking in all the pampering she could get. Now secure in Blake's arms, she alternated between dramatic glares at Weiss and Yang while enjoying her perch. Really, it was almost miraculous. Two people who usually bickered endlessly had managed to unite, if only briefly, over their shared dislike of Ruby's energetic pup. Amber wasn't sure if she ought to laugh or sigh. Still, she couldn't resist a parting remark. "Settle down, Feathers." "Feathers?" Naruko gave an indignant squawk. "Absolutely not. That is not my name." "I think she likes it," Amber teased with a grin. "Yeah," Ruby chimed in. "Just listen to her reaction." "You traitors." Naruko huffed, puffing up her cheeks. Amber bumped into Yang's back as they stopped short. "What's wrong? Why are we stopping?" Maybe the cafeteria isn't the best idea right now." Sure enough, Amber looked up and felt her chest tighten. The room had gone completely silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward her. Some students looked amazed, others uneasy, and a few cast disapproving stares. Amber knew exactly why. This was her burden. Cinder had targeted her, not anyone else. The academy had been attacked because of her abilities. Even if not everyone knew the details, enough people connected the dots. Their unspoken blame weighed heavily on Amber's shoulders. She sank into her seat, her guilt pressing down harder than ever. Yang leaned close and whispered, "Tough crowd. Why's everyone staring at us?" "Not us," Blake murmured, her golden eyes flicking toward Amber. Amber winced. "It's because of me." Team RWBY did their best to shield her, but the tension lingered like a cloud. Even their conversation felt forced, and within minutes, they were eating in silence. Each passing moment made Amber's heart heavier. She had dared to hope things could be normal, but reality quickly reminded her otherwise. "Well, I'm not letting this continue," Naruko suddenly declared, sensing Amber's sorrow. "Cover me, I'll handle this." "What are you planning?" Amber hissed, eyes wide as Naruko wriggled free of Blake's hold. "Making things better." With a powerful flap of feathers, Naruko soared into the rafters, startling half the cafeteria. Students gasped as she perched on a beam, surveying the room with narrowed eyes. Amber held her breath, praying she wasn't up to trouble. Then Naruko shifted her stance. "There we go. Target acquired. Ready for action." Amber realized what she intended far too late. "For glory," Naruko cried as she dive-bombed directly into Yang's hair. Yang shrieked in surprise, flailing as Ruby toppled into Weiss. Blake's jaw dropped. Amber groaned. Yang, however, was Yang. "That's it," she shouted, pounding the table so hard that food scattered everywhere. "Come back here, birdbrain." At that exact moment, a lemon cream pie splattered across Yang's back. She froze, her lilac eyes wide with disbelief. "Who just did that?" "Me," came Coco Adele's calm yet serious voice. Amber winced. Coco stood there, her normally flawless outfit splattered with coffee and ketchup. Her beret sagged with moisture, her sunglasses gone. She crossed her arms, her sharp gaze landing on Yang. "Do you realize," Coco asked slowly, "how much this outfit cost?" Yang's confident grin faltered. "Oh." Beacon Academy had 3 unspoken rules. 1. Never spill Coco Adele's premium coffee. 2. Never insult Coco Adele. 3. Never ruin Coco Adele's outfit. Yang had managed to break all 3 at once. Amber sighed. Oh dear. Yang might be in for it now. Coco grabbed her bag in one hand and a loaf of bread in the other. Team CFVY rose behind her in perfect unison, arming themselves with whatever food they could find. Team RWBY and Team JNPR, who had just entered, quickly ducked for cover, flipping tables and gathering their own edible weapons. Yang, refusing to back down, grabbed 2 roasted turkeys and slipped her fists into them like gloves. Amber swallowed hard. Naruko, meanwhile, was cackling with delight. Perhaps they hadn't thought this through. Maybe they could still talk it out? Too late. Food fight. Dear YouTube family. That's all for today's video. If you liked what you saw, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and keeps the journey going. More exciting content is on the way, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and for being part of this community. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.